Well, hello everybody, and welcome to this latest in a broadcast series from the Irish Field. My name is Leo Powell. I'm editor of the paper, and my guest is one of Ireland's leading jockeys, a classic winning rider, and a go-to man for many Irish trainers. He's also a straight talker, a man who calls it as it is. It's a great pleasure for me to say hello, Chris Hayes.
Hi, Leo. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, and good to see you, and thank you very much for joining us and having a chat. Chris, growing up in County Limerick and getting started with horses, were horses always a part of the family background?
I'd say race horses wouldn't have been, but from a very young age, my dad brought me pony racing to watch. My uncle would be one of the main men in the Southern Circuit, so we went back to Dingle pony races, and as soon as I saw them going around the field and the speed they were going, I don't know, I just got bitten by the bug. And we were on the way home from Dingle, and there was a pony in the field beside one of the shops, and I think I whinged enough that my dad went in and we ended up buying the pony, and that was my first pony.
Right.
Now I was only 6 at the time, so I was far too young to go pony racing or anything, but it kind of stemmed from there. And I was lucky my parents kind of supported my brothers and myself through it, because we all kind of got involved and all done a bit of pony racing. But I was 6 when I got the first pony, and it just kind of took off from there.
Oh my God. And I mean, competing on that pony racing circuit, it's a hard circuit. It's a lot, very cut and thrust or whatever. Did you enjoy it?
I did, yeah, I did. When I look back in the videos now, I don't know how I got away with it. I was, my mum and my dad would have, obviously my mum would have been very nervous of me riding, so I used to ride leg length on the 12-2s and 13-2s, and I'd be whizzing around the field. But it's good for you. I don't know, you come in that little bit sharper, a little bit more of a racing brain, if that makes sense.
Sure.
You're really one step ahead of the lads that have never done it. You know what I mean? Because you've been in that environment. And I done my first pony race when I was 9, you know, and then it was only a local race. And again, I done the local race when I was 10, another one when I was 11, and it just took off then from the age of 12 right up to 16. I was pony racing. So like that's a lot of years experience before you ever set foot in a race course, you know.
And you have to, I mean, not quite thinking on your feet, but your reactions have to be very, very quick, almost quicker than they are probably in the real racing world.
Well, yeah, like when you think about it, like I see some of the apprentices coming into Kevin's now, and like it's mad to think I was younger and smaller doing pony racing, and you do have to think quick on your feet. I'd say what I can remember of it is we got heavily involved in it when I was really starting to go from 12 to 16. So those 4 years, my parents got me ponies, and we started training ponies for other people. And it was just having to deal with the instructions, you know, like obviously they can't all be ridden the same way, but I remember two particular ponies, they had to make the running. So you were trying to get your fractions right without getting ran away with at the same time.
Sure.
And then you had other ones that couldn't hit the front too soon. So there's a lot of experience you'll gain by it, and you don't even know, because you're just having fun, if that makes sense.
But it's also very competitive. Who were your contemporaries around that time, and how many of them are still around today?
Billy Lee would have been, Billy and myself would have been competing every Sunday. Billy be a year older than me, and obviously he would have been a lot taller and stronger than me when we were starting out. So he was on the horses sooner than I was. But we used to have the 12-2s and 13-2s. We'd compete at them. He used to ride Maniac, who would have been the main pony. Nice. And I was on the underdog every Sunday, and we got our day every now and again. But rivalry like that, like myself and Billy, obviously would go back a long way. Emmett McNamara, he came on just after me. Paul Townend,
yes.
like when we first started pony racing, I was only saying to Wayne the other day, Wayne used to ride for my dad and my uncle.
Right.
So I can still remember Wayne on the ramp of the horse box telling us that he was heading away to be an apprentice jockey in Thomond O'Mara's. And
Right.
like, I thought this was unbelievable, you know, that I was going to be taking over the reins for the pony racing shortly. And you were just seeing Wayne after doing that and then heading on. So yeah, they would have been around. Davy Condon would have been around at the same time. So there was some good riders.
Sure, it was a good trading ground. And then race, how did that come about? Because I'm sure, like most parents, they want you to go on, finish school, do everything. So how did the decision to go to race come about?
I think my brother came home. I would only have been in primary school, I'd say about 6th class. My brother came home with a leaflet for race from his teacher, who knew that we were into pony racing and had suggested that he would go and do it. But obviously Patrick was a bit too heavy. Right. So I saw the leaflet on the counter, and I think I was kind of getting the plan in motion then, that this was my way out of secondary school. So I got my dad on side, and between the two of us, we convinced my late mum to let me go up. Nice. The deal was it was a transition year, and that I was to come home and finish off my leaving cert after. But I never came home.
That wasn't in your head, no.
Yeah, I'm 17 years in the Curragh now, and I haven't gone home. So yeah, look, it's a great way of keeping, like you said, the parents happy that you want to get an education. So I went up, thankfully done the trial, got accepted, done my 10 months, ended up in Mr. Prendergast. I got my FETEC level 2 out of it, which is the equivalent of the pass level leaving cert. And I got to continue on in my career. And like I said, I'm there 17 years, and thankfully I got into the right yard, and myself and the boss clicked from day one.
And I know your mother was a huge influence in your life, and I mean, was she delighted to see you progress in that area, or was it still something that she probably harbored a hope that you would come back home?
Yeah, I think I graduated in June, and I think she was expecting me. I graduated from race in June, and I think she was expecting me to come home. But I signed on to Mr. Prendergast, and my parents came and we signed on. And I think that was the realization when he said, you can take a picture of him now because you won't see him till Christmas. So I was working every weekend, and I think she realized then he's going to give this a go. And she was very proud. She used to go to a lot of the race meetings, but it used to make me laugh because I'd be describing a race to her when I come in, and she'd say, "Oh, I didn't see it." So I'd say, "What do you mean?" "Oh, I had my eyes closed." She said, "I can't watch you." So she used to come racing, but she'd never watch me.
She was just there for the podium finish then, yeah?
Exactly. She was there, and she was cheering you on, but she wasn't watching the race.
I see. She was a typical Irish mammy then.
Exactly.
And tell me, how did the connection to Kevin Prendergast come about? Were you going there while you were in race?
No, to be honest with you, the instructors at the time, they pick out who you go to, and what they told me after was Pádraig Beggy had gone the year before, and what they had told me was that he was looking for someone similar size, lightweight, and the fact that I had the pony race experience, it just clicked. I was lucky enough that we clicked from day one. Even the very first day I went in and got introduced to him, he was very, very good to me, and a lot of people have said it to me since, but he was like a kind of a father figure or a grandfather figure, or whatever way you want to put it. We've had our few run-ins every now and again and a few crosswords, but no, I was just blessed that I got in there, and thankfully he stuck with me.
I'll come back to Kevin in a minute, but the first winner wasn't for him. Anonymity at Bellewstown, July 2004. Do you remember it well?
I do. I remember it well. Chris Gagan was apprentice at the time in Kevin's, and again, he was a bit like a big brother when I went in. He looked after me and took me under his wing. Like, we had phenomenal riders in Kevin's at the time, brilliant apprentices, and Chris looked after me well, and he'd been very good friends with Jerry Lynch.
Yes.
And he actually got me my first ride as well on the track, which was on Lady Foxtrot. She hit 7:12 in Ballinrobe, and I claimed 10 off her. And I think it was a week later, then Anonymity was in. It was a double meeting. He'd 8-1, and obviously there wasn't that many with a double meeting that could do that weight. So Chris said to me, just tell the boss I've got your ride on Friday. And I was actually due to have my first ride for the boss in Limerick on the same day. And Chris said to him that Jerry fancied him and he thought he'd run well. And
nice.
I headed up to Bellewstown. I led up a winner for the boss 2 races before that. Declan rode him. And then I went out and mile and 6. He didn't carry me a yard. I pushed him the whole way. I looked terrible in the picture and in the video, but we got him out in front.
Fantastic, yeah. So it's the start of the winner producing factory.
Yeah, exactly. And look, like I said, I was just blessed that Chris put in a good word for me to get me my first ever ride. And I'd say my weight was a big help, you know, because I was able to do the 7:12 8 days previous, and then got on fine with Jerry Lynch. So he obviously was good enough to put me back on, and he was spot on. He told me in the paddock that day that he'd a real good chance. But like when it's only your second ride,
yeah,
it was all a blur. All I was trying to do was make sure I done what he told me, and he said keep him handy and don't let him fall back. So
very good. So a year after joining Kevin, you were champion apprentice and won the title 3 years in succession. So I suppose first question, and you've alluded to him earlier on, how hard a taskmaster was Kevin?
Look, he was tough but fair. He looked after me. I remember that day when my parents came up and I signed on. He just said to them, "I'll give him a few rides, and we'll try and get him going. But next year will be his year." And I ended up having 8 winners in 5 months.
Year, yeah.
And about 75 rides. So, like he done more than he had promised. The following year, champion apprentice, and he was very good. You know, he was looking after my claim. I wasn't riding winners every day of the week, but I was riding nice handicap winners.
But it was also a particularly tough year because it was a titanic battle to win that first apprentice championship.
It was. I think the first year was
38 winners. I mean, that was.
I was battling with Rory, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, look, I used to be able to go to the boss in the Sandro because we'd always roll the horses after each lot, and he'd say, "How many are you in front now?" or "How many are you behind now?" And I'd always say it was a little closer than it actually was. I'd say, "Oh, I'm only 5 in front," and I could be 8, and he'd say, "Oh God, right," and then he'd get you a winner that weekend. So he was very good to me. He was very tough but fair. If you step foot out of line, he wasn't long putting you back in your place, and you never got ahead of your station, which I think it's important because it stands to you later on.
But he was somebody who said it, and then that was the end of it.
Oh yeah, it never carried on. I told him one wasn't much good after a piece of work one day, and he made me lead it in from the Curragh. Now, leading it in from the Curragh is a long way to his yard because it takes 25 minutes to ride him across. And I don't mind lead him across. So that was the last time I ever told him one was no good at the top of the gallop. Like, I was a 7-pound claimer telling him he was no good, and he said, "I'll win. She'll win. You wait and see." And she actually did. She won 2 in a row. So I still get reminded of that.
A lesson learned. At the time, what were your ambitions? Because, like, as a 3-time champion apprentice, I mean, people that knew you. I mean, did you ever consider England as a possibility?
Yeah, I did. the champion apprentice was my goal, and again that was through the help of Chris Gagan, who was a huge role in it with the boss. He was always a great help to me. I was delighted I'd done that, and heading into the last year, I was a little bit unsure of what I was going to do. The winners were coming, but it's competitive over here. You need a job, you know. So I was blessed that I got approached by James Kelly, who was Lady O'Reilly's racing manager at the time, and they offered me the role as their retained rider, and that kind of set me through my last year as an apprentice. Yeah. And I rode until 2010 as Lady O'Reilly's retained rider. So that just came at the right time, and thankfully we'd good success together as well.
Skip forward a couple of years. 2013, I suppose, was a breakthrough year of sorts. The Matron Stakes at Leopardstown on La Collina a week later for the governor, and then a week later the Irish St. Leger on for Lady O'Reilly. You must have thought, this is it. I've arrived. I'm in the big time now.
Yeah, I did. I'll be honest. I had a lean 2 years previous to that, and I didn't get retained. Lady O'Reilly didn't renew my contract. It was the time of the downturn, and I actually thought about going to England, and it was my worst year, 2011. I only rode 20 winners. So it was that was probably the defining year for me, because I worked and I drove around the country, and I suppose looking back, I probably thought I arrived when I got the Lady O'Reilly job back in 07, 08. So it was a kick up the backside, and I worked my socks off in 11 and 12, and rode a lot of winners in 2012. And then Declan got the job with John Ox. So Kevin was straight in and said to me, "You take over." And that was the real defining year for me and breakthrough year, because to get that Group 1 winner for him after the support he'd shown me, and then to ride a Group 1 winner a week later for Lady O'Reilly, who people had said, "Oh, he got sacked by Lady O'Reilly," but I didn't. It was just she didn't renew the contract. She didn't have enough horses to justify having a first jockey, but it definitely was the kick up the backside I needed and get the bit between the teeth.
Yeah, you did an interview for the Irish Field at one stage, and I thought you were very honest about it. You spoke about that maybe that person at that time was maybe a little bit on the cocky side. You know, you were king of the parade ring and the race course, and then suddenly just, you know, for it all to end. But you accepted that situation, I felt, with a lot of grace and just dealt with it. You didn't get angry, you didn't get, sullen about it. And I suppose the fact that Kevin continued to support you, that must have been a big help at the time.
Exactly, yeah. And I think looking back on it, I was just naive. I was apprentice, and I was riding all these winners with a 10, 7, 5 and 3 beside my name, and then all of a sudden I get that Lady O'Reilly job, and I'm on a level playing field in with Mick Canaan, who was riding at the time, Declan McDonough, Pat Mullen, Johnny Murtagh. Like, when I look back at it, it was lunacy to think that I had the game cracked, and yeah. I did. Looking back on it, that's exactly what I thought. And I thought, this is easy. I was riding in stakes winners for Lady O'Reilly. They were getting placed. I was riding winners here and there. But I did get complacent. I wasn't riding work for as many people as I should have. And when you look back on it, like, I remember Pat Mullen, Lord mercy on him. You'd see his car parked up in the car park. He could be there at 6:30 in the morning riding work for anybody before he goes in to Dermot Wells' yard, and then again at 12:30 when he was finished in Dermot Wells. And when you look back, that's the way you have to do it, and I was quite happy. I was basically second jockey to Kevin, first jockey to Lady O'Reilly, and I said, this is easy. But thankfully I woke up in time.
But I mean, that might have broken many a lesser spirit. I mean, where else were you getting support? I mean, how did your parents react at the time, and how did they deal with it and with you?
You see, that year when I didn't get the contract renewed, I came home from India in March of 2011, and it was only then that I got told we're not renewing the contract. So I had a good chat with the boss, who said to me, look, I'll still look after you if you come in here. Obviously Declan will be first choice, but he said, I'll look after you to the best that I can. So I continued to go into him, but panic did set in. I said, I need to get out of here. I need to go to England. Ger Lyons put me in for a job in England with John Quinn, and John rang me and asked me would I come over, and I just said, look, Punchestown week is on. I'll come over for 4 days. There's no point in me accepting it and you offering it unless we're going to click. So I go over for 4 days. If I like it and you like me, we'll go from there. And I went over, done my 4 days riding out, and I rode a few races for him. And he said to me, what do you think when you drop me to the airport? I said, just let me think about it. And Patrick Prendergast actually rang me at the airport, and he said to me, look, I don't have many horses. I've only 20, but he said, I'll do the best I can. He said, I just think you should stick it out for another year. Nice. And thankfully, I took his advice. I rang John and said, look, I feel like I'm only going to be running away if I go now. So I'd like to see it out till the end of the year. And I said, look, I'll speak to you at the end of the year if you're still looking for someone. And thankfully, Patrick supported me, and it all clicked into place. But my parents were great. They never batted an eyelid. I used to be ringing my dad the whole time, and he'd just say, yeah, go in and ride out work, and it'll all fall into place. And just lucky they had the steady hand kind of just to keep you there, on the right road.
Fantastic. 4 years ago, it must have been a special moment to reward Kevin by riding Altad victory in the Irish 2000 Guineas. When wins like that come along, do you get emotional about them?
Oh, very, yeah. Yeah, that meant a lot. Obviously, La Colina meant a lot, but I was taken over from Declan, so she wasn't mine as far as I was concerned. And Belus de Cours, that was a spare ride. So Altad was the first one that was mine. I'd ridden him all his work, rode him in all his starts. So yeah, it meant a lot. And even though he was a big price, there was a lot of pressure on, because he had done an unbelievable piece of work on the week before. And I remember saying
Can't keep that quiet on the Cara.
Yeah, I remember saying it to Kevin at the top of the gallop. Now, Kevin was cool as a breeze, pulling grass, and gave him a pick of grass, and he just said, well, and I said, whatever beats him will win. And he said, yeah, keep it quiet. And we gave him a pat in the neck, and he headed off. And Desi and Dan, who looked after him at the time, they headed on, and I rode him his last swinging canter. I think it was 4 days or 3 days before the Guineas, and I could barely hold on to him. So there was a couple of sleepless nights. So it was good that it just fell into place and everything went right. We got the nice draw, right ground, and everything just clicked.
Sure. Speaking of emotions, are there words to describe the feeling of being greeted in the winner's enclosure by Pat Mullen after Search for a Song gave you a second ledger last year?
Yeah, look, Pat was brilliant to me last year. When I was in riding, Pat obviously was riding work in there at the time before he got sick again at the second half of last year. So we'd have been bouncing off one another, and he just gave me the confidence going out. Do you know, like I rang him and asked him, could he meet me? Now, Pat was obviously celebrity status that day, so it was hard to get a hold of him. But I gave him a text, and he said he'd come down, and I had a chat with him outside the weigh room. And he just gave me the confidence to just let her on the way I did afterwards, because he said, look, whatever you do, don't get into a row with her. Wherever the boss tells you to ride her, he said, try and ride her there, but don't get into a row. So it was just unbelievable to come into that reception and for him to be there. And I said to him after, what did you think? He said, you don't want to know. He said, I just said a mile and a quarter out. Where is he going? But thankfully it worked out.
Worked out. I mean, you mentioned Pat earlier on, and you know, it's not a hindsight thing. He was simply a special person, and you know, he must have been a huge influence in the weigh room, in the jockeys room.
A huge influence to everyone, but you could go to Pat. It didn't matter if you were a fully fledged jockey, a 10-pound claimer, or somebody just having your first ride. Pat would always make time and sit down and talk you through it. And it wasn't only in racing he influenced me. Like I spoke to Pat before I bought the house and the land I'm in now, and I told him that it was on the market, and I was telling him that I wanted to get into the breeding side of it. And like, he was just a massive influence, because Pat had a very good way of looking at things. And I remember sitting down telling him when this place came up for sale, and he just kept looking at me. He says, just buy it. What are you thinking about? You know, he just had a great way of kind of giving you a kick up the backside to tell you just go on and do it and don't be afraid to do it, you know?
Yeah, but giving you that confidence. And
exactly, yeah, exactly.
In addition to the winners we've already spoken about, you've sat astride, I'm just looking at a list here, Mamoon, Tarnawa, Soul Power, Gordon Lord Byron, and others at various stages of their careers. Do you have a favourite horse that you've partnered?
Autad would have to be my favourite. Again, it's just because I considered him mine. I know Sheikh Hamdam owned him, but I considered him mine. I got to ride him, all his work, some of his canters, all his races. Thankfully, I still go up to Derrinstown to visit him as well. So he'll always hold a special place with me, and I'd have to say he would be my favourite. Although I did get a fair kick out of riding Soul Power.
I can imagine.
Yeah, I got a fair kick out of him. I actually said to Eddie, I'd love to have ridden him when Johnny and that were riding him, because the speed he was showing at the age he was when I got to sit in him, I'd love to have sat in him when he was younger.
Oh my God. I was just looking again at your stats. You've ridden for almost every trainer, Kevin, of course, being the most successful, but you've ridden many winners too for Paul Deegan, Andy Oliver, Fozzie Stack, Harry Rogers, Eddie Lynham, mentioned Dermot Weld. And I have one fascinating stat. You have 100% race riding record for a certain Aidan O'Brien, I think. One ride, one win. What are the qualities that you have that you think make all these men and women happy to give you a leg up on their horse?
I don't know. I'd like to think I'd probably get my foot in the door with my weight would be the first thing. I'm lucky enough that my weight was always good and always stabilized. So that probably gets my foot in the door. But I think for them to keep using me, I'd like to think I'm tactically aware. You know, I like to dissect form and go through it, and I'd always have the highlighter out, trying to figure out where the pace is and draws and trying to find the right place to be. That'd probably be one of my main strengths. And I like to look at the calendar and the program book.
Right.
So I'd like to be able to get off a horse and be able to say, look, it didn't work out today, there's a race in 3 weeks, or look, that was brilliant, there's a race in a fortnight. You know, that kind of thing. I'd like to have a little bit of an input, and I don't know, maybe some trainers like it and some trainers don't.
Yeah. Kevin O'Ryan is your agent. Do you leave it all in his hands?
Yeah, I do, to be honest. 99% of the time I'd leave it to Kevin. He'd often ring you when the weights would come out, and he would say, look, you've an option of this or this, what do you think? but 9 times out of 10 he would make the call. It'd be very rare that I would go against what he says, because those phone calls where he'd give you the options, I'd say, well, what do you think? He'd tell me what he'd think, and I just say, yeah, that's fine. It'd be very rare that I'd go against him. And anytime I have gone against him, it's been wrong. So I do leave it to him. Because
so it's a very important, but it's a very important relationship. There's a huge amount of trust in it, isn't there?
Oh, there is, yeah. And to be fair, you can ring Kevin morning, noon, or night, and go through different things with him. And yeah, he will tell you as well if he thought you gave one a bad ride. So there's a good relationship there, and yeah, it's fun as well. I get on well with him. We have a bit of slag and knock a bit of crack out of one another. But when Kevin rings you at a certain hour of the day and you're after making a mistake, you better keep the next 20 minutes free, because you're going to get a grueling.
But this is your livelihood. It is important. I mean, it's not a game. This is serious stuff, I suppose. I wrote about you in one of my Breeding Insights columns when Nazif won the Group 1 Falmouth Stakes. And you mentioned earlier on about buying the place on the farm and getting into breeding. You bought her half-sister whom you had ridden, and you've had a couple of Autad colts out of her. You obviously enjoy the breeding side of things.
Yeah, I think when I got the job in Kevin's, you start, like you said, it is serious and it is a job. You have to be looking into different angles, and I suppose I started just looking into pedigrees a bit more, and then Autad was the first horse that I had ridden that was going to stud, so that kind of opened my eyes a little bit more as well. So I again had a good chat with Pat. I actually remember the day she was going through the ring, and I had been chatting to Pat about it, and he said to me, yeah, she's a nice page. He said, go for it. And the boss actually ended up buying her, and I went in the following morning and had a good chat with him and ended up buying her, and my brother ended up running her in the bosses. Like, I'd only intended to breed off her, but she had shown potential when Shay Camden had owned her, and look, she was placed a few times after for him, but ultimately I wanted her to breed off, and sent her to Autad, and thankfully we got a lovely colt for her first foal, and put her back and foal to Autad, and we brought the foal to the sales last year, and he sold quite well, and he was sold again as a yearling, and he's in Eddie Hartley's now. So
right.
Next year,
keep a close eye on him.
Yeah, next year, all being well, it'll be we'll say a first runner as a breeder. So I'm looking forward to that. And who knows, Eddie might use me.
Have you gone back into the market again? Have you added to the list?
Yeah, I think the foal sold well last year. So Rachel and myself decided we'd buy a mare. We bought a mare in foal to Highland Reel, and we covered her with Autad, and we sent Bootlat to Kodiak. So
very nice.
Yeah, we've an Autad and a Highland Reel for the sales in Goffs as foals, and thankfully, touch wood, the two mares scanned in foal to Kodiak and an Autad. So looking forward to them.
Excellent stuff. You're still a young one. You've many years, hopefully, in the saddle ahead of you, but you must also at times, you have a level head on your shoulders. You must, your thoughts must turn to the future and what's to be. Do you have any thoughts on that even at this early stage?
I think, 4 years ago was when I first got the thought of it after Autad retired. That's why I couldn't see myself training. So I just said, I've an interest in the breeding side of things. Let's see how it goes. And I dipped the toe in the water just because if I like it now and I can make it function while I'm still earning from the riding, and it's not interfering with the riding, it's a good way to find out after that. At the minute, I'm liking that, and I'm concentrating on the racing, but I've no big plans.
Another 20 years in the saddle would be fine too, would it?
Yeah, unless somebody wants to offer me a job, I'm available for whatever.
It's a tough life being a jockey. I mean, you've got to a level that very few get to, and I suppose the pressures, are focused on a bit more nowadays. And there's a number of programs around. One being the Jockeys Pathway, and I know that you've been, you've taken advantage of some of those programs that are available.
Yeah, the Jockeys Pathway is, look, to be honest with you, the dietitian, I think it is invaluable. The strengthening condition with Wayne Middleton, that's what I use. He
sounds like a hero to you in ways, is he?
Yeah, like I went down and got my assessment with him, and the thing about it is he's able to set up a program with you that you don't have to be going every week, because it is hard to find 20 minutes, half an hour, 40 minutes, whatever length of time that Wayne thinks you need, because I'm living a little bit outside the Curragh. So you have to give yourself nearly 2 hours by the time you drive in, drive home, get showered, get changed. So it's much handier for me to just use the programs he gives you. So after initial assessment, like, that's invaluable. I found a big difference. The dietitian with Gillian, she's been brilliant as well. I think I've used everything on it. John Butler, the physio, I've used everything bar the psychologist on it, for the simple reason is I've had my own sports psychologist for a few years, so that's the only thing I haven't used on the pathway, and I find it's something we can't do without anyway.
Sure. I mean, the pressures, I mean, there's always the headlines made by incidents where people have been found positive for drug taking or whatever, but there's a huge pressure on it, on jockeys, and how much of a bond is there between you all in the weigh room, and especially when somebody is probably going through a tough time and facing a difficulty, because with social media, with sort of all sorts of other things now, it is a very, very pressurized situation for a young man in the business, or a young woman in the business.
I think even though everybody in the weigh room would be fierce competitors on the track, it'd be a very close-knit family, if you would know if somebody was a little bit out of character and wasn't themselves. Like, I remember I thought I was having things tough. I went 80 odd rides without a winner, and it was starting to just wear on me and started to get in me. And I remember Lee Roach coming up to me, and he just said to me, "You're not right, are you?" I said, "I know, I'll be grand." And I sat down and I had a good chat with him, just about nothing, just shooting the breeze, having a laugh. And there is, you'd be surprised how many people would come up and notice if you're not yourself, and that's all it really takes is, are you all right, or you don't seem yourself, or something like that, and you'd be shocked at how many people would spot it and say to you.
And you've been lucky in the last couple of years with the medical people in the Turf Club, now the Horse Racing Authority, those people looking after you and looking out for you.
Yeah, well, like Adrian McGoldrick is, you don't need to say much more about him. He's just he was and still is a godsend for us. And I think there was questionnaire after questionnaire after trials after trials. And once Adrian sent you a text message and said, "There's going to be someone at the weigh room and need to fill out this questionnaire, do this trial from dehydration to strength and conditioning, psychology reports." If Adrian asked you to do it, and stand on top of the roof of the Curragh doing it, you do it. And the same with Jennifer Pugh. And they're slowly starting to get the whole programs together and get all their findings in. And we'd be lost without them, you know. And the fact that we're able to ring them up and they're so approachable, and there's no, you really don't need to make an appointment. It's just send them a text message or give them a call, and they're there any hour of the day or night. And that's a service that a lot of sports people don't have, you know.
Sure. After the heaviness of that, Chris, maybe something a little lighter to end with. How's the golf handicap?
Terrible. I haven't got out in the last 2 years. I think Dubai was the last time. I played in Dubai and I was off 21, and I'd say now I'd be badly handicapped if I went out later on.
That's obviously a good sign. You're obviously too busy doing other things to be playing golf.
Exactly.
What race would you most like to win?
The Derby, Epsom or on the Curragh, either or. Little bit of an unfinished business there, so either or would do.
What's your favourite meal?
Steak in the Hangman's.
I join you in that one. What are your thoughts on Arsenal's season so far?
Oh, they're as frustrating. I'd say they'd have been happier now if COVID had kept them locked down, because they're so frustrating. They're starting to wear me a little bit now.
You might need the medical help yet.
Yeah, exactly.
And finally, to end, what horse are you most looking forward to next season?
Mina. She's a Frankel half sister to Autad. She won her maiden in Dundalk, and yeah, I'm still going into Kevin's at the minute, and she has just started back and she looks phenomenal. She's done really well for her break, and yeah, she's going to keep me thinking over the winter anyway.
Fantastic. Listen, thank you very much for this, Chris. Great to talk to you. Continued success. Stay safe and well, and the best of luck in the year ahead.
You too, and thanks a million.